I would like to invite and thank you very much for your time and your presentation.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation. It was a great pleasure. I'm very happy to see such a big crowd. I would probably not gather so many people, you know, in one room for the presentation. So I'm very happy. Thank you.
I would like to go on and to ask if it's Adam here. Adam from Indiana University. Jakub, just stop sharing presentation. Okay. Adam is here. Maker Educator. Its title. Adam, do you hear me?
I do. How do I take over control?
You just share on the bottom right, it's a present now, so you can choose and share your screen or your application, whatever you prefer. So until you start, just quick story how we start to collaborate, and last year, it was last year when we were in Berlin.
Yes, last March, I think.
Yes, last March. It's one crazy year past, and we start with the one group called Innovation in Education, started by Adam. We are proud to be invited by Adam, and floor is yours, Adam. Just tell us about innovation in education. I believe 172 teachers and educators listen to you.
Okay, great. Can you see the slides okay?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm really excited to be here. I wish, of course, I could be there in person, but you know, that's not possible right now. And the silver lining is, you know, Roberto can pull together people from around the world maybe more easily now than it would be in person. So thanks for listening to this. I'm going to talk a bit about, I'm going to get you doing some activities, hopefully. And so hopefully that number of attendees stays high and people don't just drop off. But, you know, I think overall we'll be talking about how we can do some of these things in education. And so, again, hello. If you want to connect on Twitter or make posts today, you can use these Twitter addresses for AV Maltese and Maker Educator Collective. And I'm going to be seeking your input here pretty soon, actually. So you can do that in the chat. You can do it on Twitter, and we'll hopefully keep track of that. So a couple years ago, pretty soon after I think I met Roberto for the first time, I connected with a friend of mine who I had seen at a couple different meetings, sort of similar to what you're involved in right now. And his name is Casey, and he was out in California. So I'm in the central US. I'm a faculty member in the School of Education. So I prepare future middle and high school science teachers. And I run a makerspace here and do research in this area. And I met this guy, Casey, and he worked in a school district working to prepare teachers, and they had a makerspace out there, and they were training teachers in how to do these things. And he himself was most recently a math teacher and had been doing pretty amazing things. He happened to know Dale Dougherty, and they together were sort of highlighting some of the things that Casey was doing in his classroom and at that school. Amazing guy. And we said, you know, how can we get more teachers to do this? And the thought was that if we could figure out ways to make the technologies accessible and come up with ideas for how they can incorporate these technologies and these practices in their classroom, then you know, that would be the best hope that we had of getting kids to do these types of activities. And we both thought that that was very important. So we created this group called Maker Educator Collective. And since then, we've been offering trainings to teachers. So we've probably trained a few hundred teachers at this point in different settings. This summer, we had our most recent one, which was a fully online training. And that was interesting, but we were still able to pull it off. And really, the whole idea is trying to take things that are somewhat advanced. So like the presentation you just saw, you could get concerned that it's too advanced. You can't understand it. You can't get your students to understand it. But our main goal is to try to take that and break it down into more simple topics, and then get teachers to realize that even if they don't have a 3D printer, they can still teach about 3D printing. And so we take these ideas and try to make them simple, and then try to get educators to feel comfortable in engaging their class in these types of activities. So like I said, we've done that now a couple times. You'll see more pictures of some of these trainings later. And so the first bit of interactivity I wanted to have is this question. So assuming that everyone in here went through schooling and is not a current student, if you think back to when you were in school as a student, what is the one thought or one idea that comes to mind as you think about that time? And maybe if you can sort of type quickly in the chat the word or the thought that comes to mind, that would be great. And to be honest, feel free to type it in Croatian if it's easier to do that. That's fine with me. I won't understand it, but the rest of the audience will. But I want to just get your thoughts and opinions on what you remember most from schooling. Oh, and one thing that I want to make sure is, because we asked a similar question last week when we were doing a talk like this, and a lot of people said, oh, I really enjoyed, being with my friends. So I understand that school is a great time to be with your friends, but I'm wanting you to focus on the in-school part where you're probably in a classroom with a teacher. That's the part that I want you to think about. So we're seeing some answers come in here. Memorization, boring. Some, definitely some positives of happy and beautiful time. And I know that the answers will be, I am biased, right? You are all biased in that you're part of this week. You probably wouldn't be part of this week if you thought that lecturing at your students was the best way to teach. But so when we ask this of people, the answers that you've given so far, and feel free to keep contributing, they're typically the ones that we get. Many people remember sort of sitting there, being forced to do work, being forced to memorize something or do mathematics calculations, doing worksheets, and those types of things. And some of it might have been exciting, but in many cases, it was often a situation where you weren't really interested in what was going on. Usually, the situation is because you didn't necessarily see the value in learning it at the time. So when you're learning grammar for the language, you don't necessarily see why that's important. Oftentimes when you learn mathematics, the teachers, can't answer every day why you need to know this topic. And so in making and maker education, I think we really push on this idea of trying to do something that's relevant and trying to be clear with the students why that's relevant. Give them a choice in it, but also be clear why it's relevant and how it can connect to other things beyond just learning the topic. And so, so that's frequently what we hear. And there were a few positive responses there, but what and Casey helped me put this presentation together. We gave a similar version last week. When you think back to your time in education, wouldn't it be amazing if this type of experience was the memory that you had, right? A very happy, very excited experience where you thought, oh, every day I got excited to go to school. I used to teach science in middle school, and my boss at the time said to me, the one thing I want to happen is when your students go home every day, I want them to talk about your class. That's the first thing that they tell their parents about when their parents ask them what kind of day they had. And I think I still really keep that idea in mind, that, and I do actually research around that idea of making it really interesting and exciting. And so I think that an important thing is not to make it so much fun that it's tricks and magic, but if you can make it exciting and interesting by engaging the students, and we'll talk a little bit about how you might do that. So keep this picture in mind as sort of, this is the goal. We want kids to be this excited frequently in school and in our classes. So when we look around the world, many countries think, and I don't disagree with this, but many countries think that innovation is the way toward a brighter future, usually toward a stronger economy, toward solving problems, both social problems, environmental problems. Right now we have, one of the biggest health problems of the recent times. And so they usually use the word innovation frequently. And so as I was preparing for this, I kept searching innovation in Croatia, and some of these different icons and signs came up, and I hope none of them are sort of have negative implications. But there were definitely things coming up about, particularly in the last 5 years, how the Croatian government is trying to sort of infuse innovation and get more research and development happening in the country. And so there was an interesting quote that came up here that I think sort of captures this idea. So without taking a big step toward innovation, research, the synergy of science and in the economy, we don't have a chance, right? And that's what a lot of countries believe, big and small. In the US, we hear this as a way that we need to stay ahead, whatever that means. In China, you hear something similar. And then in many other countries, it's a way to sort of secure an economic future. And so what I have been thinking about, and then what I brought Roberto into thinking about, because he had been thinking of similar things over the last couple of years, was, what does that mean? And then what are ways that, it's fine for the president of a country or foreign ministers to talk about innovation, but what does that mean? And how do we actually prepare children to be innovators and to be inventors, or even to sort of understand what that looks like? And so, again, I brought this in just in the sense that this is definitely happening around things like STEAM Week would not happen if this wasn't really a focus. And so, really, I have not found a country yet that hasn't talked about innovation as a key to its future. And so I think it's pretty much a universal that countries talk about this. Now, the way that they get there, they all sort of get there in different ways, or they're trying to get there in different ways. All right, so here's where I want, and we're going to take a couple minutes out of the time here. Here's where I want you to participate in this design challenge. And it might be, and I don't see many people's cameras, so I can't tell if you're going to do this, but what I want you to do is essentially go around your apartment, go around wherever you live or wherever you happen to be right now. I think I saw someone on the bus before, so it probably is going to be hard for that person to do this. But see what materials you can find and try to pull together an object that, and you don't have to build a working prototype of this, but pull together an object that you think can help make someone's life better. So we often use this design challenge with children. And last year we used it with some NASA scientists. And last week we did that. And we've used this in a number of different contexts. And it's really interesting to see what people come up with. And so, yes, if you want to turn on your camera to show while you're challenging, but I'm going to keep talking. But while I'm talking, I'm giving you, if you're not already doing this, I'm giving you full permission to go grab some materials and start making something. Because in a few minutes, after I talk a little bit and then show a little bit of a movie clip, I'm going to ask where people are with what they're building. And so I'd love for you to share both via text or Twitter or Facebook or on the screen here by sharing your camera. And so we can spend a little bit of time maybe seeing what people have made. So again, the idea is, what can you make that will help someone's life better? It's a pretty simple challenge. Think about, it might not be you, it might be someone else that you know, but think about that. And the materials that you probably have some access to are things like extra paper, some cardboard, paper towel or toilet paper tubes, some plastic recycled containers, some things to attach things together. So that might be glue, tape, hair ties, or rubber bands, and then other interesting things that you might just have around that are easily accessible. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking through these materials, but one of the reasons why we do it with these materials is they're pretty easy to get. They're generally cheap, right? We in our daily lives typically consume these things. Most or all of them are recyclable in some way, which is great towards sustainability. And if you're in a school and you're looking to collect objects or do this sort of thing with your kids, you can do it with these sorts of materials. You don't need to get fancier materials or even fancier machines at this point, right? You can do a lot of stuff with these basic materials. And just one tip, I don't know exactly what the store would be in Croatia, but if you go to some stores in the city or town where you live, maybe grocery stores where they sell, produce and meat and those sorts of things, they often, many of the things come to them in cardboard packaging. And my experience here is when I need a whole lot of cardboard, if I go to those stores either sort of early morning or later in the day and talk to somebody, they're usually unpacking materials and they're willing to give you a bunch of cardboard. And so it's one way that you can get a lot of these materials without having to work very hard for it, and you can bring them into your school, and they're usually willing to donate them to teachers and kids. So easily accessible materials. You can do a lot with these. Cardboard in particular, you can do a lot with. So I wanted to give you some examples. And again, you should be making, remember the prompt here is, what can you make that will help someone else, someone's life better? So just to give a couple examples, these are relatively simple ideas, but where somebody or a group of people were thinking about how they can improve someone else's life, and they've led to really interesting projects. And I will share the slides later. I've got a couple links in my slides. I will share those so that Roberto can give you them, and you can use the links in here if you want. So in the upper right, there is a small Raspberry Pi, which is a small computer device. And in this case, what a group has done is for individuals who have diabetes, where it's hard for their body to regulate their blood sugar, at least in the US, it's very expensive for them to get the right equipment to allow for this to work really well. And so a couple of groups have come together and used materials that exist out there, used sensors that exist, and they hacked those in a way that they could create their own monitors to monitor their blood sugar and make their life that much easier. And so they share the code, they share the hardware, how you can purchase the pieces to do this yourself. And so it's just a great way that people are trying to help each other by solving this problem, and just to make their life that much more normal by having these things. In the middle screen here, I believe this is a gentleman from, I think he is from Brazil, and I don't know if it's Moser or Mosier, but he had the idea that you could light up the inside of many dwellings, particularly dwellings that might not have anything other than a door or a window, that don't have any ceiling light, in places where there isn't electricity. Often those places are in very bright settings. And if you made a hole in the roof and put a plastic bottle filled with liquid, and I think usually it's water, and made it, push through the roof enough that the sun would hit it, it would take that light and reflect that light inside the home or the building, and it can light up the building really well, as long as there is light. And so really simple idea, all recycled product, but can really change sort of the quality of life of somebody who might be living in one of these homes or shelters, in that you can now give them much better lighting to see what they're doing and by which to live. And then this final picture down in the lower left is a girl with a prosthetic hand, and that hand has been 3D printed and connected with some different wires and cables and materials. And this is part of a group called Enable, and they've put together a project where they have directions and videos for how you can print and assemble 3D printed hands for individuals who don't have hands. And the great part, one of the things that I love about them is if you just want to do this because you're excited about it, you can send the hand that you make off to the organization, and they will find somebody who can use it, so you don't have to deal with that part of it. The other part is it's really focused on getting kids to do this. And so they have a lot of different instructions, and you can sort of make hands that have different amounts of complexity. But most of the directions for how to make that hand, how to assemble the pieces, are videos that are sort of done by children for other children. And so it's really great to go on and see kids teaching you how to make a hand that, again, can benefit some other child in the world. So really great models, right? But pretty simple ideas, but really can help other people in their lives. So again, I hope you're building. I see a couple comments in here. I'm hoping to see some more and maybe some people popping on here soon. I'm going to show a little video that has some pictures, and this is to give you some time to do a little bit more building. So I will be quiet at this point, but I will play this video, and hopefully you can hear the music. Music's not that important. It's the images that matter. And I'll come back on here when it's done. All right. So at this point, I want to see what people have been making. I'd love to hear either what ideas you have, or if you've been actually working on a project, if you can show your screen and share what you've been making, that would be great. Is anyone willing to take a chance and show off what you've done?
Maybe we can invite someone. We have still 162 people online. Maybe someone wants to show us. It can be described in Croatian, it's no problem. I have to finish my.
Yeah, and feel free to share while you're in the middle of it, right? I said that's why I put what you're making, not what you made, because I'm sure that you'll still keep making. And I think I have a screen later where I ask people if what they've finished or where they are at that point. Does anyone have any ideas of what they're trying to build that they can share? Don't let Roberto be the only one to share.
Come on. Unfortunately, I'm in Fab Lab right now because we have a better connections and so on. But I miss something from home. So I have to even improvise this, what I should have at home. But I would rather wait for someone else to show, maybe. To be courage. In Do It project, we just finishing today one of the important, not skill, but characteristic of the kids was to don't be afraid to show and to share idea and to be persistent in working on their ideas. So this is very important. So we want to all of you try to do with the kids in your schools to motivate them to have crazy ideas, but also to continue work on those ideas.
Yes, and I think one of the important things, and I like how some of the ideas are starting to come in here, is the prompt, the question that I just gave. With cardboard and basic materials, it's unlikely that you're going to create, a perfect product that's going to solve this problem for somebody. But because the materials are accessible and people don't feel bad about cutting up cardboard and doing those sorts of things, I think they're more willing to try and experiment. And that's really what we want to encourage, is the experimentation, the iteration, and revision. And so even in this situation, right, if I was teaching you all and having you do something similar, at the end of it, I would always say to you, okay, that's nice. How can you make that even better, right? What would your next step be to improve that? And it might be that you would test it out. So I saw a cat pillow come up, right? You would test it out and actually see if your cat wants to use that pillow or if other cats want to use it. Great, more responses coming in. So thinking about making it fit this idea of sort of engineering a little bit or design, thinking about, you should have an idea of what you want to do. You try it out with some materials. Maybe you do a little bit of research, but then you test it out and you revise, and you could sort of always revise. And so one of the things that I would talk to you about as teachers is trying to find a place in the way you have your assignments and the way you have your class where it's sort of always open for students to do revisions to their work. And that really helps them to get this idea built in their head that, whatever they might submit to you is just a version. It's not necessarily the best, but right, it's a version at that time. And if you can get that idea and that mindset, that will really help them understand that learning is a lifelong process, and that's one of the big ideas we want to get to them.
I believe Renata said I can show you my mediation cushion made from old cloth.
Yeah,
So Renata, can you share and show?
I put my camera on and my microphone on. Do you see me?
Yes.
Yes.
Meditation cushion. Actually, I just want to say I'm a chemistry teacher.
Okay, great.
I teach a lot, or as much as I can, about the collagen and using things. So this is a meditation curtain. So inside it's my old and all other clothes that I can put inside. And once upon a time, I teach meditation my class many years ago, and that had a really big impact. So.
And that cushion looks a lot to me like it could be used to teach about atoms and molecules.
Yes.
You know, to your students.
Models or something.
Right. So you could create that, create other models from that too.
Hi.
Thank you.
Thank you, Renata. My colleagues here, are you online?
Yeah, I am, but I don't have.
Put on camera.
Okay.
Where are you?
Oh, sorry.
Hi, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Just a second. So here's my cam. Can you see me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so I have a small box. So it's here, and it says, "If you think you forget me, don't worry, I'm here." So it's a pretty small one. So every woman can put it in a bag, but also a man can put it in a jacket, and kids can put it in a school bag. And what's inside? So probably you can decide what is really important for you, and it's inside. But I put something I think I often forget. That's a small papers, pen, some coins because I really need them. Then something sweet. It's candy. And also, sometimes if you probably feel sad or if you need to call someone, I have a note. I'm here for you, and here's some email, and it is a phone. So probably I will put something else inside, but I didn't have more time for it. So that's it.
Excellent. Excellent. And Roberto, did you want to share
Oh, sorry.
what you're working on?
Okay. We have to, because we have a closed computer, so we have to switch,
I see. Yes.
Yeah, so anyone else, maybe?
I saw Matilda asking about sharing the screen.
Yes, can I?
Yeah, of course.
Please turn on camera.
Just a minute.
Matilda. Čekajte, to se...
Zatuširam.
Da, užas. Gledaj, mi smo online.
Dečki, di kliknem da podijelim sličicu.
Vidjet ćemo je, samo kameru upalite.
Aha, ok. Evo kamera.
A možete i na hrvatskom objasniti slobodno, ako vam je lakše.
Ne znam li se vidi sličica.
Vidi se.
Vidi se.
Aha, vidi se kamera.
Da li vidite sličicu kako učenici grade kućice?
Ne.
Stavite ispred sebe ispred lica.
Ali na kompjuteru vam je slika.
Ali slička mi je na kompu, da.
Imate dole desno present now ili prikaži.
Ili predstavi odmah.
Predstavi odmah cijeli svoj zaslon. Evo štima. Ja se sad vidi.
Sorry Adam, it's on creation, so
We have
technical issues.
No problem.
Matilda will share her screen, so.
What doing with her pupils.
Jesam uspjela išta podijeliti?
Tako je, vidi se.
Sad imam ih dosta, uglavnom oni se skupe i dobrovoljno rade kućice od starih klupa.
So this is from old tables, school tables. Dog box.
Yeah,
I onda
that's
već većinu fall shelters for animals, uglavnom šaljemo di god svugdje po, evo, tako, svašta izvode.
For dogs.
Jel vi vidite moje sličice kak ja listam?
Vidimo.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing.
They also share this with anyone who needs shelter for dog. They send it to them. So this is definitely some kind of social activity and social innovation. So
Right. And to be honest, I like that. I'm assuming you're probably donating those, but
yeah.
Right, you could think of having students create a small business around making, fancy dog houses like that, and then you could incorporate those aspects as well of entrepreneurship and advertising and all of that sort of thing too.
Ma u stvari, poruka je malo duža, mi skupljamo boce i dovoljno nam je 400 boca, izračunali smo da skupimo za jednu kućicu. I onda kad skupimo dovoljno boca, sad engleski mi je lošiji da pričam s čovjekom pleo. To od mene.
Okay.
Pozdrav!
Okay, hvala. So they are collecting bottles because you can receive money for the bottles in Croatia. So they need 400 bottles. They collect 400 bottles, and then that's the money they need for one shelter. So this is also some kind of business model. Let's say how to make these things sustainable. So
yeah,
definitely very interesting, Matilda.
Yeah, that's great.
Example.
I really appreciate you all sharing.
Okay.
You're welcome.
So let me go back to the slides, and I will. I realize that we're coming up on the end of time here, so I will sort of finish off the talk, and then if anyone wants to share more of what they've built, that'd be great to see too. All right. Okay, so we're gonna have to, unfortunately, not some other date in the future when I get to Croatia, we'll do this brainstorming session. But what I wanted you to do is really think about, if we want innovation, right? What changes do we have to make to the way that school is to get there? And so often we have to think about what education should look like over the next 10 years in order to get this to happen. And yeah, so here are some thoughts that I have on this, and I'd be interested to hear, and feel free to sort of write in the chat your thoughts on this. So again, if the idea is what do we need to do in education to get our students to be more prepared to be innovators, then that's what I'm writing here, and that's what I'm sharing for the next few minutes. So a couple of the ideas that we have are that learners, and this is both in school and out of school, so in their museum experiences, in their work at home, that they should be engaged in finding and thinking about and working toward solutions to authentic problems. So in the example that Matilda just gave, right, there are people that need dog houses, and there are some materials that are available, and they are working to build those dog houses for people who need them for their pets, to give them shelter. That is more authentic than if it was just a sort of a made up scenario that didn't actually matter for people. And I think many of you came up with solutions that are sort of meaningful and authentic there. That we engage the students in the actual process, not just the thinking about what they could do, but the actual doing. I think that's really important because A, they get very engaged in it. It gives them some skills like dexterity, but also they very rarely get the chance to actually act on their ideas. And so giving them the chance to do that, realize how hard it is, but also how rewarding it is important. That we can bring in, and even in an environment like this where many people are sort of stuck in their homes or in their home countries or whatever, is we can still collaborate. And so you can collaborate and connect people who might be experts from around the world or just interested people from around the world. And you can have those people connect to your students and even have the students themselves, connect with each other. And so this one picture on the right here is an example where my graduate students who are Chinese, we went back to China and worked at a school for migrant girls and taught these girls to make their own hats and incorporate electronics. And these actually quite young girls were doing pretty complicated math, were assembling materials, and then doing these electronic pieces as well. And so when my students left, almost all of them said that they wanted to be fashion designers. Now, they probably won't become fashion designers. Maybe one of them would. But the idea is that they see that as a possibility. And that's sort of the magical piece, is that you give them enough experience that they think that they can do that in the future, and that can lead to all sorts of positive outcomes. I love the mechanism that this boy has put together on his hat. I don't know what it does, but it does it a lot, whatever it does. Is that we can personalize and customize education, right? In the examples we just talked about, if you gave that question to your students, what can you do to make the world a better place, or what can you do to help someone? They can answer that their own way, and that's okay. And so allowing them to explore these ideas, maybe it's in a small team, maybe it's as an individual, they can explore that, and we can help them work through that. And if they have any special needs or learning disabilities, we can also work with those students. And what we have heard from a lot of our colleagues who do this work with students who have learning disabilities is when they get engaged in making like this, they absolutely see a new side of that student. And the student often does really fantastic work because they're finally given a chance to sort of do something that matters to them. Similar to this, if we let them make some of these choices, even if we think that they might be going down the wrong path and they might fail, that's okay. We let them make those choices, they feel better about it, and then afterwards, we can find a way to support them in the best way. And that's where you're going to see the biggest smiles and the most engagement. One of the things that we also recommend is, many times in school, at least in the US, I'm assuming it's similar in Croatia, they have a language class, and then they go to math class, and then they go to their exercise class, and then they go to science class, and then they go to a class where they learn about politics and social studies. We have put up those boundaries to make the school day work. But what happens is the students believe that those things are sort of separated, and that's not the way that the world works. And so the more that we can do to integrate these topics and have them make something like you just made, but then have them write about it and have them draw about it and have them make some measurements on it, right? You can incorporate all of these different topics in a much more sort of meaningful way and a much more authentic way that can really bring them together and get them to see that purpose in why you're teaching them these topics. And then I think this is the last one that I have in here. We shouldn't forget this idea of play. We should have fun. I'm hoping you had some fun in what you were just putting together or sharing it out, even if it felt a little silly. We should allow them to play. And there's sort of the typical play that kids do and adults do through sports. But even thought play, right? Thinking about things. This is how a lot of advanced science gets done in theoretical physics and chemistry, is people sit back and they think about an idea and they essentially play with it. And so getting students to play and be joyful about this can really be important as well. And the example given first thing this morning, I can't remember the My Machine, I think, or the Dream Machine, right? That's sort of a perfect example of this, is having something that we might consider like a dream or a fantasy, but actually trying to put it together is really, you can learn a lot through doing that. So just, I think the final thing that I'll share here, and there's a link in the slides if you go here, we've done some work over the last couple months. And Roberto, is it okay if I talk for a couple more minutes? Okay, so we've done some work over the last couple months. We got some funding from our one of our research agencies, the National Science Foundation, and then Infosys Foundation, which is it's a tech company, but they sort of have a foundation that supports computer science and making. And we started this project, and let me see if I can bring up a link here and then just share. Let me go back to the window. Let me find the right one here. Yeah. So what we did is we realized that there are many families who are at home and without, looking for activities to do, particularly here when schools shut down in March. And so we had a number of people from around the country come up with different ideas for activities that those families and kids could do at home with minimal materials. So somebody had mentioned before weaving plastic bags together. Well, this video here, how to create plarn, which is plastic yarn, right? We have sort of an example. This resource you could download has some more directions, but there's a video where this woman shows you how to create some plastic yarn. And we have a variety of activities here. We've got, I think, 60 activities, where some of them are challenges, some of them are easier, some of them are harder. But the idea is to allow people to make things and do this sort of thing when they have minimal materials. And so one of the, let's see if I can switch my thing back here. Nope, I don't want to show you my software update. Okay, I think you're back on the slides here. Through that, we created those activities. We had a number of people engage with those. We also did this thing called Camp Co-Build, which was essentially we used those activities and ran an online virtual camp where each day we presented one activity and we celebrated what they built from the day before. And so we ran those a couple times online, and those seemed to go really well. And again, all virtual, all students, all the kids were at home with them. We just used the materials that they had around and available. And then just last week we started this. I saw that, is it all 6th graders in Croatia have microbits, or a large percentage of them? So we, that was really exciting to me. We love the microbit, and we're using that. We created a coding club for 5th through 8th grade kids. Same way, we're hosting it on Zoom, and we're trying to combine both sort of engineering with computer science. And we're hosting that for the next couple of weeks, and we're going to see how that goes too. That one's a little bit trickier, but we're going to use the simulator, so the online web page for that. And then at some point, we will mail families who've participated long enough, we will mail them a microbit so that they can use that at home. And we're going to help them work through creating a problem, solving a problem with using the microbit as the solution. So funding helps because we can do this, but really we're trying to pull together ideas and share those with educators and share those with families so that they can still participate in this. I'll sort of skip over this. I think that's all I have. But if anyone wants to finish off and share what they made, or email me pictures or ideas, we'd love to connect. Like I said, I know I've been trying to get to Croatia. COVID hit right at the wrong time last spring, but still hoping to get there soon. And really, what Roberto and I realized when we first started talking was there are many people out there that are trying to do what all of us are trying to do, and that if we share and we think about these ideas, there's a lot that we can do together to help each other out, that we don't have to solve all these problems on our own. And I think that that's, that's a really important idea. And so don't feel like you're trying to do this alone. There's plenty of resources. Feel free to get in touch with me. And if I don't know the answer, I often know somebody who might have a better idea. But best of luck in trying to do this. I think the one takeaway message that I would give is, as humans, we're doing a great job at creating a lot of problems in the world, and we can't keep up with solving those problems. And so we need more people to be able to be problem solvers. And the only way that we can do that is by actually allowing the kids to solve real problems during their school and learning from that. And so I really encourage you to try to incorporate as much of that as you can with your kids.
Dear Adam, thank you very much. I will leave this because I have a meeting with the Makers organization, but you can stay here and put some questions to Adam. And Adam, thank you very much. I will send you WhatsApp later.
Of course.
Thank you very much.
All right. Yeah, thank you, everybody. I'll stick around if anyone has any questions, but otherwise, have a great night, and thank you for participating.
Čekaj, budem ja. Evo, hvala još jedanput svima što su današnji dan je bio i mi se ispričavamo, imamo daljnjih obaveza, pa ćemo vas ostaviti ako imate, Adamu, još koje pitanje. Evo, puno vam hvala.
Adam, we have only one question. So it is, if you can share the link to the page where that plastic yarn video is, please.
Did that link come through and work?
I can see it now, but maybe if you put it on a chat. Oh, I can see it. I hope that everybody else can see the link. Or if not, I can share it through the email if somebody will ask for it. So I think that's all for questions. So everybody are saying thank you and bye, and it's also in English and on Croatian.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, and I will send Roberto my slides. So if people want to pull anything out of there, there's a couple links in there if they want to see those. So
yeah. So Adam, thank you very much, and I think that's all for today.